Hey, and welcome back. In this video we're going to be talking about the PixFrame node in GeoPix 1.0. If you've been following along, at this point we should have some movers mapped, and as you can see here we have the two on top of the tower, which are type A, and then the four at the bottom on the floor, which are type B. They're both a little different and they both came with their own challenges, but here we are, and we're going to show you how to set up some looks using the PixFrame node. Alright, so the first thing to do is to jump into the IO tab. From here you may see a few things that look familiar. We have the haze slider, which I'm going to turn on for a moment and get some more haze going in here. And then we have a couple ramps, and this is our dim control and our shutter control. So to create a PixFrame node, the first thing we want to do is come over here on the left, and under PixFrame just click Create. That's looking good on fog. And then I'm going to go and place this down here just below this blue ramp, and let's zoom into it for a moment. So the PixFrame node is not a traditional texture in the sense that these are being produced for projection, and this is already a pre-mapped piece of content. So while it lives in the IO, you don't actually interact with this like you would these nodes. So to get this set up, let's go back to the editor and let's select our fixtures. So here we have our, let's see, 6 fixtures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go ahead and select those. And we come back over here to the IO. With our PixFrame node selected, there will be a button that says Load Selected Fixtures. So you just need to click that, and your fixtures should be loaded into memory. And if you click Edit PixFrame up here, it's going to open the PixFrame editor. So once this is open, we can stay in the IO tab, or we can go back to the editor. It doesn't really matter. But from here, we can right mouse and pan to move around this little viewport, and you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and the H button to home. The way this editor works is pretty straightforward. We have along the bottom, the x-axis, each column is a different fixture, and then the rows are different channels. So if you're in select mode and you know what you're doing, you can just go in here and you can select the channels you wish to modify. And then if you don't quite know, which is probably the case for most people, you can just leave those deselected, and over here you can select your fixtures and select your channels, and that will automatically select the actual value channels that you want to adjust. So with these two selected and the tilt selected, you can see that tilt 0 and tilt 1 is green. And if we go over here into push mode, which is the way you adjust values, all you have to do is left click and drag up. And going back down will take it back in the other direction. You can let go and you can keep scooting it. So it's a very precise numerical control for adjusting these things. And this is quite nice. You can also use these shortcuts at the bottom. So I can set to 255, which is max it out. You can also set it to 0, which zeroes things out. And you can also increment +1. So I can go over here and add +1 or -1. And you can also add 16, which gives you a slightly larger boost every time you push the button. So in addition to being able to do this with your mouse, you can also do this with your arrow keys. So if you use the up and down arrow keys, you're going to be adjusting at one value at a time. If you hold shift and up arrow key, you're going to go to 255 and 0 respectively. And then if you hold control and do the arrow keys, you're going to get increments of 16. So once you get the hang of these hotkeys, it's quite fast to go in here and kind of move things around. The next thing I should tell you is that in the top left here you have your current frame. So one thing we might want to change in our IO tab is the number of frames this PixFrame contains. So by default it's set to hold 1, so you can pretty much set one look and you're done. However, if you want to hold more, which is probably the case for you, you can just go ahead and change this number to something else. I'll go ahead and go with 10 for now. 10's a pretty solid number. Normally you would probably want hundreds of looks, but since we have the ability to take a hybrid approach in GeoPix where we can take still looks and combine them with motion from other sources such as projectors, you'd be surprised how far you can get with just a few looks. Alright, so with 10 frames and that's all dialed in, we can go up here to the current frame field and we can actually pick a new frame. So we can just cycle through, and you can go all the way through your 10 frames. Currently, all of our frames are zeroed out, so let's go ahead and move tilt up for frame 0. So let's point these at the ceiling, hit the back wall there. Now we can use the left and right arrow keys as well to go between frames. So if I hit right arrow, we're going to go to frame 1, and you can see that we went back to a new frame, and this frame is all zeroed out. So let's go ahead and put these at maybe 44, and now if I go back to frame 0, you'll see that we went back to this value set that we had, and then if we go back to 1, we're back here. So this is a pretty straightforward process. Once you understand how to select different channels, you can pretty much just start adjusting them on the fly. So for example, I can deselect the BIs and select the zoom movers, and we still have tilt selected, so by default now we have the other tilt parameters selected. We can just move this up and maybe point this somewhere else. Then if we want, we can say, alright, we just want the first of all, let's take a look at something. We've got 1 is on the left, 2 is the second one, and then 3 and 4 are on the right. So what we can do is take 1 and 2, and we can take the pan, and we can go ahead and move this up or down. We actually can't move it down because this is 0, so we actually need to move this all the way around 180 degrees. And let's figure out where is 180. By using the up arrow keys, we can dial this in, look at the ceiling, find that sweet spot, and that's looking good. So then I'll actually go ahead and do this to all the movers. So let's go ahead and 255, and then we can use control, and let's go down to 173. That's looking pretty close to centered, and that looks great. And now this might be a good base frame, right? We might want to keep this for all of our. We might want to use this as a starting frame for all of our future frames, because if you notice, if you go to 2 and 3 and beyond, it resets back to 0. So what you can do is to copy a frame, and then you can paste this in every other PixFrame that you have. And now that they're all set to this kind of default, we kind of work from this and create all of our different looks. There is one last thing that we should do, and that is to set up the BIs the same way. In fact, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to grab these BIs, we're going to adjust the pan and do a 180 degree spin and get this pointing straight ahead, and we can go and use the arrow keys to dial this in more precisely, and that's looking pretty good. And so I'm actually going to copy this frame, and we're going to do that process a second ago over again. Alright, so now that we've got that copied to all frames, we're good to go. Let me check the video and make sure you guys can see everything okay. That's looking good. Alright, so we got one frame here. This is a good base frame. We should probably leave frame 0 alone so we can come back to it and copy it if we need to. So let's go to frame 1, and let's just set up a few very basic looks. So with the BIs, let's go ahead and tilt these down a little bit. And then let's go ahead and tilt the left BI in. That seems like a decent enough spot, and let's tilt the other one in as well. And once we've done that, we can grab both BIs and find the prism parameter. There it is. We can see it up here. We actually don't need to see the channels, we just need to know they're selected, and so we'll go ahead and drag this up. Maybe find maybe a nice spot for this. This kind of looks pretty cool. The widest angle these things can take. Okay, so maybe we like that look, and we'll leave those where they are, and let's go ahead and grab 1 and 2 on the movers, and let's pan these inwards a little bit. And actually, before we get too far into this, going to turn off the diamonds. It's a bit distracting, and it would be nice just to see the effect of only the movers. Alright, let's see how this looks. You guys can still see everything. Yep, great. So, we have these two on the left pointed inwards, so it makes sense to point the two on the outside, facing in a little bit more. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's feeling good. And this might be a fine look positionally. So let's go ahead and leave this alone, and then let's go to the next tab, and maybe we want to actually start from this one for frame 3. So let's copy this frame and let's paste it over here. And now let's go ahead and adjust some of these movers in the ground some more. So let's grab the first one, and let's go ahead and let's actually grab the second one. That's what I wanted to grab. Seems like a fine place to put it, and let's just dial this one in a little bit more. And then let's grab 2 and 3, and let's take the focus, and let's just kind of crank this up a little bit and expand it some. Alright, let's go ahead and get some more fog going for a moment. And we can grab the other two, 1 and 4, and perhaps we want this to maybe be tilted up some. So let's go ahead and tilt these up a little bit. And then maybe we want to have the focus also dialed open here. So let's go ahead and dial that in some more as well. It's looking good. Alright, now with the BIs, let's go ahead and go back to those, and let's go ahead and adjust the pan. That's looking pretty good. Let's grab the other one and let's go the other direction. Now that we have them pointing towards each other, we can grab the prism parameter and maybe just tighten that a little bit. I feel like that looks pretty nice. And this might be a pretty good look, although I think I want the 2 outer movers to be facing out more, so let's go ahead and take the pan for the left, and let's point it out on the outside somewhere, and let's grab the other outer side, and let's point that somewhere as well. We can really dial in with those arrow keys, keep things straightforwards. And that's looking pretty good. Okay, so let's go over to the right once more, and let's actually grab frame 1. Let's copy this, and we just paste this, make sure we're at a good starting place. I'm going to have one that has these zoom movers tilted and hitting the back wall, and then we can maybe angle these out a little bit more so they're a little bit more even. So we'll go and tilt this one over here, and then we'll grab 4, do the same thing, and that's looking pretty good. Then we can open up the focus on these a little bit so that they blend a little bit across the wall, and that's kind of nice. And then perhaps we would like to have the BI's iris continuously, so let's go ahead and find where that is. I think it's 128 is the slowest motion. Let's go a little bit faster so we can avoid that choppiness. There we go. So 131 seems like a pretty good number for that. And that's a good look. Let's keep that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just fool around here with the floor ones some more. Let's go and point these outer ones in. And let's do the outer one there. Let's crisscross these. Do something interesting with that. Let's grab number 3. Let's grab 4. We can grab the BIs. Let's tilt these down a little bit. And let's tilt them in. Or pan them in, I suppose. Alright, so let's grab the other one. And this is looking pretty good. So let's save this as a look, and we'll copy this frame, and we'll modify this one. This is a pretty nice base. So let's go ahead and grab these Bs, and let's open up the prisms. And that's looking pretty good as well, so let's copy that, and let's paste it over here. And let's see what else we can do with this. Let's grab our zoom movers. Let's go ahead and grab all of them actually, and let's grab our tilt. Let's go ahead and max these out, or rather min them, and then let's go ahead and reset them to a good even position. And that's looking good. Alright, let's grab 1 and 2. Let's point them inwards. Let's grab 3 and 4, and let's point them in the other direction again. And that seems like another nice look, so let's kind of cycle through and see what we have. We have a couple looks here that just flip back and forth. So this is looking pretty cool. We could keep going here, but for the sake of keeping this tutorial a little bit more succinct, we're going to kind of stop there. We have 6 looks, and that's plenty to go off of for a learning experience. All right, so we have 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 total. All right, so we need to head back over to the I/O tab, and let's change this to 7 and cut off the extras we haven't used. And great, now that we have that, we can exit the editor and we can go and save our project again. Let's go ahead and go to desktop, tutorials, and let's just save this as 9.1. And once you've created this and you've exited, you can actually go over here to the frame and you can just quickly and easily change this. So you could manually set a look if that's all you want to do. Alright, so let's go ahead and go with 0, because 0 is a pretty clear an easy thing to work with. Let's go back to the editor now, and let's find our tilt projector. So here's our tilt projector. We have no texture assigned, but let's assign our ramp tilt that we had from last tutorial. And let's get that going, and let's go ahead and edit that ramp a little bit. So we'll edit the ramp, and let's bring down the lower value all the way to 0, and let's bring the higher value just a little bit above. And we can set this to, Hermite's fine. Okay, so what you're seeing here is this ramp being combined with the effects of this PixFrame node. And what's really cool about this is you can go through and change the frame, and we're going to be having this motion all the time. This motion's stuck because the projector has it going over top. And so we can set base looks, and then we can modify those base looks with animation of all sorts. And we're not just limited to animating the tilt and pan, we can also animate things like strobe and shutter, and also the focus and the iris and the prism effect. Lots of things we can do. It's kind of a 20th Century Fox look here with the spotlights going in the sky. We have a wider version of that. And that's pretty much the gist of the PixFrame node. You can see how this is combined with textures pretty easily. You can still go through and modify these projectors. So if I wanted to rotate this projector, I can rotate this on Z and actually affect the way it interacts with the scene. Maybe I set this to 90 and we get a very even tilt, right? Even though this ramp is still going from left to right, the projector's been rotated and now it's going essentially from top to bottom, which gives everything a very uniform tilt. Now if I go over here and scale this up on Y so that it covers those again, you'll see that we're hitting everything. If we want to tilt this just slightly off of 90 degrees, we'll get a very, very subtle cascade effect. So let's go ahead and go to like 85, maybe like 80. And you'll notice that the lights kind of have a very, very gentle offset in terms of their tilt motion. So I can make that more extreme the more I rotate this. So 70 is a little bit more extreme. And you just keep going further and further with that until you get back to normal, which is rotation of 0. So that is the end of the PixFrame tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you can see the value in it. Stay tuned for the next tutorial where we wrap up this entire thing and we build a simple VJ system that combines both our LEDs and our DMX lights into one jam-friendly control system. Alright, thanks for watching.